Welcome in, Buckeye backers. We are back for another Thursday night show. Ohio State does not have a game this week, so it will not be a preview, but there is plenty to get into. We'll dig into it right after this preview. Boom, intro, babe.
Proud of our young people, and most especially in 310 days in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jenkins on 4th and 1. Holy Buckeye! Under pressure, throws it. Incomplete. The Buckeyes win.
It's so easy to be average. The hell with that. We don't want to coach average. Did you push yourself to be great today? Did you do it? If you didn't do it, you lost today.
Bill Jones gets the snap. Fakes a run, drops back to pass, fires long. Down the right side, going toward the end zone, and it is caught! Touchdown! And it's Devin Smith again.
Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins.
And pitches to Archer Griffin, number 45, and Griffin fighting up the sideline. And he gets it into Michigan territory. A great individual effort from the 20-yard line. Eddie Jordan finds a hole.
Smith in trouble. Spins away from it. 40, 45, 50. 35. Troy Smith.
To throw. Steps up. Delivers deep down the field. He's got a receiver. Olave. Touchdown Buckeyes.
And a spot in the national championship game. It's on the way. No good. He hooked it. And Georgia is going to survive.
I haven't scored a touchdown in a long time, so it felt good. I give all the credit on the word of God. And when I'm coming around the edge and I see JT punch it out, I said it downstairs. There's no chance in hell I was diving on that ball. I was trying to scoop and score it no matter what.
Howard runs it. First down, Moore slides down inside the 40. Ohio State.
Oh, man, so much of that video just hurt. That's why we didn't play it last week. Couldn't do it. Just couldn't watch that, man. All those Buckeyes beating up on Michigan, and it's been way too long since that happened. Man, back in 2019. Still hurts, man. Still hurts. How you feeling after all this?
Not good, man. Not good at all. You think time heals all wounds, but I think we're going to need a little bit more time with this one.
And that's the thing. Are these feelings going to dissipate with time? I don't know. We got projected as the 8th seed in the college football playoff, but we're likely to see the first ever playoff game in the shoe, dude. That's going to be awesome. But we just signed a top 5 class. But also, Michigan's missing the playoffs. And they're going into the Who Cares Bowl. But all this, and there's still a lot of buts, man. We got to talk about those buts. Everyone wants to talk about them. We're talking about the buts. How are you feeling, man? How do we get past this? What's the next step, brother?
No, I don't know. And I told you, go back a year ago. We were sitting in this week a year ago. Mm-hmm. We felt absolutely demoralized. And the reason we felt that way was Ohio State wasn't playing another meaningful football game until August 31st. We had 9 months to sit around and stew and wait and just be utterly frustrated by the performance of last year's team. We got to live through all that in the offseason and kind of work through it. It is a completely different narrative this year where the ultimate goal, everything you want in front of you, is still there. And we still can't shake this feeling of that loss on Saturday. It's such a conundrum.
It's still there. What's Day's record after the game? It's 1-4. I mean, if you're talking about in the game, 1-4. So 4 losses in a row. That's hard to get over. That's hard to get over against any team.
He's talking after the Michigan game. Did he win or lose? That's what he's asking. Meaning, how did you rebound or overcome that? And I don't know off the top of my head. Obviously, they lost to Missouri last year. Who cares about that? In 22, they lost to Georgia. Or was that 21? I can't recall. Anyway, it's not strong. It's not strong. And this is, again, I was thinking about this quite a bit. I never want to hear an Ohio State fan complaining about a 12-team playoff. Because
what's Dave's record the game after the game?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you, man. He was talking about after the Michigan game.
Got it. Not good either. The last 2 years it's been a loss.
Yeah, it has been. And that's
and against Missouri they didn't play well, but they played well against Georgia. No one thought they had a chance against Georgia after getting whooped up by Michigan. But there's a lot of buts here. We have something to be thankful for, something to look forward to going on. The playoffs is happening, man. How do we adjust our mindset? How does the team adjust their mindset from we just lost our arch rival, we have no gold pants, we have no hardware? How do you flip the script? Hey, it's time to prepare. And possibly Tennessee, which would be an awesome game. They have a great defensive line too. So how do you flip the switch and say, hey, team, this is over. We got to forget about it. We got to move on.
You shift the focus to what's the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal, no matter what, is a national title. We've talked about it with Ohio State. You got to check the 3 boxes. You got to beat Michigan. You got to win the Big Ten championship, and you got to win the national title. Well, 2 of those you're not going to check this year. However, the most important of the 3 is still available. And that's where you say adversity defines your character. And what you have here is everyone's counting you out. You lost to Michigan for 4 straight years. You're now an A seed. Everyone thinks you're going to go to the Rose Bowl in the second round. If you make it to the second round and get walloped by Oregon, especially being on the West Coast, everything you want is right in front of you. Are you going to take it? We're going to see the true character of this team and this coaching staff this year.
This is where grit kicks in. This is where you find out what you're made of. You dig a little bit deeper. You get a little bit better. And, man, I'm just so pissed. The loss of that magnitude is very hard to recover from. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. Excellent words. Josh Gurley's got it. The magnitude of that game, it's just so hard to come to grips with. And I don't think we will until we see that playoff ranking on Sunday night. Then we can start shifting focus. That's the time where it's like, Buckeye Nation can come to grips with this. This is a loss. We have to move on. It's time to prepare for the playoffs. Because we got to make a championship run. Day knows it. Everyone knows it. I mean, you have that feeling, right? All across Buckeye Nation. The fans feel it. You know, the team probably feels it. We haven't talked to anyone in the team since, Saturday night. The coaching staff feels it. National media feels it. Something's got to give here. It's time to make a run.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to see ultimately, again, what this team is made of. And I think a loss like this, it's either going to go in one or 2 directions. It's going to galvanize this team, and we're going to see one of the best rosters on paper, which we believe them to have, one of the best coaching staffs on paper, which we still believe them to have, and we're going to see what they're made of. One of the best quotes of all time from Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. I absolutely love that because you're always going to face adversity. And in fact, I actually like a 1-loss, 2-loss Ohio State team because it means they face that adversity. They're not worried about being tight and being perfect and undefeated and all that stuff. Those are really hard seasons to accomplish. You had to sit in that locker room. And if I'm Ryan Day, I'm telling that team how you feel right now if you never want to feel this again, let's get back to the film. Let's get back to practice. Let's do everything in our power to make sure we don't feel like we feel right now ever again. And
Time to get back to business.
We're going to see
what get back to business.
This is now psychological warfare.
Mm-hmm. And it was before. It was before. But this is how you overcome. I mean, you lost that battle. It's time to go. And he called it a war. That was the battle for the season. Now we're on the war for the whole season. You know,
you lost the battle. You can still win.
What is this team going to be made of? Are you going to hang a banner? Are you going to have something to prove? Or is it just one big blank check that was ripped to pieces, man?
We're going to see. We're going to see. And this is where I think we talk about this in the two extremes, right? There's a scenario you and I could see where Tennessee wins that game, and the writing is all on the wall. Everything we think is going to happen would happen. There's also a realistic scenario where this team, one of the best teams on paper, wins the national championship. I think those are two scenarios where the future of this program are very clean. I think what I want to dive in a little bit more is what if it lands somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, that's the scary part, because then we don't know what to do. And I think it boils back down to the monetary cost. Because people are all talking about that $37 million buyout. Well, there's no such thing as a $37 million buyout anymore. There's no such thing as just the coach buyout. Because on top of Ryan Day's buyout, you also have players that are going to leave. They're going to matriculate somewhere else, right? Are they going to go to the transfer portal? Are they going to go ahead and jump off to the NFL where maybe they would have stayed? You're going to have to buy $20 million back in. So on top of that, you add $20 million. Plus the assistant coaches that are going to leave, you got to get a whole new coaching staff. That's another $20 million. It's adding up quickly. I mean, you're talking from $37 million, you're up to like $60 to $70 million to replace a coach.
Listen, if it was so expensive, nobody would fire their coach.
Well, it's a new time. People aren't firing their coach anymore. They're replacing from within. And that's why we've seen it so many times. You don't want a roster complete makeover. You want to just kind of tick it, improve it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, this roster wouldn't. Let's say that they were going to go that route where you lose a coach. It doesn't need an overhaul. It needs to stay in place, but improve.
You really start having to ask yourself, does Ryan Day have the right makeup and character for the job? He's a smart guy.
He's asked that. He was point blank asked that. Are you the guy that's going to take us there? Bill Landis was like, are you the man that's going to accomplish these goals? You have 3 goals. 2 of them are gone now. Are you the man to get that other goal?
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that, because I know you were in the Woody this week, part of the Ryan Day press conference. He and give credit to you all in the media, asking some really tough questions. You want to tip your cap to. Those are not easy questions they were asking, and you heard them obviously firsthand. What would you just kind of describing his body language, the way he was answering questions, his poise, kind of what were your thoughts on Ryan Day, just seeing him in person there?
Well, first of all, it was a signing day press conference. So it started off first 10 to 15 minutes were just about signing day. So everything was pretty comfortable then. But you could see the ants in the room. Like, everyone was antsy. They wanted to ask these questions. Like, when were the Sharks going to swarm? Because they even asked questions before. Hey, when do we get to ask about Michigan? And they were like, what if I don't even have a question about recruiting? Can I raise my hand now? And they're like, no, just hold off and we'll call on you. So Dave Biddle was the first one that wanted to ask a question specifically about Michigan. So they got to that. They started talking about it, and it was a little, somewhat defensive by Day to start with. And then, he went into it, and he wanted to give the defense credit. He wanted to say for sure that they passed a lot, 35 times a game. So 35 times a game happened to be the second most in Will Howard's career. But it was the type of passes. He did pull the onus on himself. He said, you know what? I'm the head coach. I'm the one who's to blame. We could have got the players in space or on the perimeter, was his exact words, on the perimeter. And I didn't really like that answer necessarily. I thought, not necessarily the perimeter, but you want to get the big dogs the ball. You want to get Smith the ball. You want to get Tate the ball. You want to get Ennis the ball. You want to get Emeka Ibuka the ball. And yes, maybe get your guys on the perimeter and not run it up the middle and use tempo. That was the other thing. Absolutely, it would have been beneficial to use more tempo. But he called it out and he flipped the script. Eventually, he was like, you know what? The ultimate goal is to win, and we didn't do it. But you know what? We got everything in front of us now, and we want to win this whole damn thing. So he's ready, and he has that script to the team ready. It's time to win the playoffs. It's playoffs or bust now.
Here's the thing, though. We saw all of this in the first half. Everything that he is talking about or alluding to, we saw it all. The runs up the middle not working, not playing the ball out in the boundary. You actually saw at the end of the first half what tempo could do to the Michigan defense, where they marched down the field for a touchdown. Every single thing he's talking about, you actually saw in the first half. The most infuriating thing about that is you did not make halftime adjustments. You went back out in the second half and said, by golly, we are going to stick to our script and we don't care. That is infuriating. You absolutely must, especially in college football, where you have 20 to 25 minutes, which is double what they have in the NFL. You absolutely need to take that time and say, we're going to take our game plan. We're going to throw out the window. We're going to go to these set of plays because they know they work. And it's week 14. You know the entire playbook by week 14. It is all open to you at that time. Week 1, that's a little bit different. But everything was available. They refuse to make halftime adjustments.
Yes, that's the infuriating part. And he did say, we got to learn from this. Games like this, you always learn something from. We got to learn from it. We got to get better. And the plan is to get better for the playoffs, to be ready. Every game, every loss to Michigan, he said, has been different. It's not been the same. But as walking around that Woody, going out on the actual practice field, looking up at those banners, I took a picture of most of the championship banners because I was like, you know what? It resonated with me just then. This is what's going to save this team. They got to put together that run, like Day was saying. They got to hang one of those banners. If they don't hang one of those banners, this will go down as one of the top on paper teams to not accomplish anything. 0 of their goals.
Probably 98, man, to be honest with you. I would harken back to 1998.
2015.
Yeah. But it's a little tough when you won the national title right before then. But 98, that was clear cut.
Yeah, but they had everyone back.
Yeah. It's tough to repeat, man. It is very tough to repeat in any sport. So I don't.
That goes back to an offensive coordinator that time that lost us that national title too.
Again, what it comes down to ultimately is, what are you doing to win the football game? Stats be damn, targets be damn, everything be damn. What are you doing?
Give me that W.
Yeah.
Just give me that W now. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. It comes down to, did you win the game? Now, I heard people talking about if Ohio State would have won this game 13-10, if the score was flipped, would you have been happy as a Buckeye fan? Would you have been like, all right, we win and we move on, we're good?
Yes. I came into this game last Saturday just saying, I need to breathe again. I need a sigh of relief. I didn't care if it was 13-10, 3-2. I didn't care. You just needed to put all that history behind you and move on. That's what you really wanted out of this game. And now the real lingering issue is, let's say Ryan Day does pull the rabbit out of the hat here. He goes on a run, wins 3, his next 3, maybe wins the whole damn thing. We're going to go into next season, and we're all going to be circling that game in Ann Arbor and be like, here we go again.
Damn it. What's going to happen this time? Hey, we brought up a point, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. and we were talking and debating about how it would feel with a Michigan writer on here too, how it would feel to go back to back, to play that last game of the season, then get Michigan in the championship game again. So circling back on that, what would it feel like if this team had another shot at Michigan?
I mean, as Buckeye Nation, you want to be playing Michigan in 2 days in Indianapolis? I sure as hell do.
Hell yeah, I do.
I would take that game right now, no matter what, because I want to get this taste out of your mouth. And the fact is, I guarantee you, if Ryan Day was playing Michigan 2 days from now in Indianapolis, you would see a completely different game. You would absolutely see a completely different game. Obviously, being indoors on a track. So I just want all the Buckeye fans.
What, no 11-mile-an-hour wind to complain about?
Which is no win whatsoever. If anybody says that wind, it was part of that game, I got nothing for you. But you also, as Buckeye fans, got to realize 2 things from this year. One, we would love to play Michigan in back-to-back weeks because remember this feeling right now. And 2, thank God there is a 12-team playoff. Or else right now you would not have meaningful Ohio State football until August. So these
sitting at home playing a Missouri in a bowl game again. That's where we would be this year.
It didn't matter last year. That wasn't a game. That was an exhibition game. Flat out. It wasn't a real game in any stretch. So I think this is great. You know, I would certainly be open to the concept if you want to move the Michigan game to September, October, so you don't get that back-to-back. That's fine by me. I'm not going to argue that. But I absolutely do not ever want to see divisions again, and I absolutely want every chance possible to play Michigan.
For sure. It's not going to change, man. The hatred's going to be there. The rivalry is going to be there. It might get more intense if you play twice.
Well, the only thing better than beating Michigan once in a year is beating Michigan twice in a year.
Now, you flip the script and you lose again. Holy shit. We're all going to have to go into hibernation.
Here's the thing. This is, again, Ryan Day needs to feel blessed at the moment because everything he wants is right in front of him from this point forward. You are going to determine your fate. And there are very few times in anybody's professional career where you can have such a major setback and then in a month literally have your entire future laid out ahead of you and you control whether or not you have it or not. So he is in an incredibly fortunate position. And again, I harken back to last year where we are all sitting here at 11-1 with no future for that season. The season was done. So
and playing the best team in the nation that ended up winning the title and barely losing at their place.
Yeah. And it's wide open. This year is wide open. I mean, and I know we're going to get into some playoff talk a little bit here, but it's a wide open field. And I think if everything, let's just say everything holds true with the bracket for simplicity's sake, you really start breaking it down. Ryan Day can truly rewrite the script with a hell of a run.
And we need to kind of just see what that playoff bracket really is going to look like. Because right now it's pretty set in stone. Let's look at this and give this a little talk for just a little bit. And then we'll bring in the commercial. Yeah. So this is what we got right now. We got Arizona State versus Penn State at the top of the bracket, the 12 versus 5. Which, to me, I think will be an interesting game. And, yes, the playoffs are wide open. Josh coming in from the locker room. Hell, yeah. Then, I don't think this one's going to change. I think the Ohio State-Tennessee at 8-9 is going to be there no matter what happens.
I agree.
And that Notre Dame 8-11 probably will be the same there, too. I'm sorry, 6-11 will probably be the same. Where it could change is the Georgia. Well, I think Georgia 7-10 will probably be there too. So what could change on this one? It's just who's going to be in the top 4. You know, Penn State wins, they're going to flip flop with Oregon. Boise State will most likely be there. And then SMU. What's going to happen with the SMU if Clemson ends up winning that? Do you think they fall out? Do you think they stay in?
No.
Do they get penalized for a loss there?
No. In my theory, and we can get this in before our commercial break, my theory is simply going to be the College Football Playoff Committee is not going to punish teams for losing on Friday or Saturday. And the rationale is going to be simply they have played one extra game than a lot of other teams. And by punishing teams for losing in their conference championship, you will disincentivize teams from wanting to go to it.
So you don't think SMU is going to drop out? You think they're in? And they bump, a Bama out?
Possibly. And what the real problem here is not that they're sitting at that 3 seed getting that ACC bye. The real problem is the committee ranked this team 8th in their rankings, not their seedings, their rankings. Because what you did by putting them 8th is you basically said there is nothing we can do here. If SM wins, you're in. If SMU loses, you cannot drop them behind an Indiana and Alabama who didn't play that week. Because if you do that, and if you push Indiana and Alabama, and let's even say Miami ahead of them and drop SMU out because you're basically moving everybody up one here, what you just told SMU is you got punished for being 11-1 and going to a championship game, and Miami got rewarded
I think
for being 10-2 and not going to a championship game.
I think what you're saying is you're punishing them for not having much of a schedule other than
you had
playing in their championship game. They have their chance in the championship game.
No, you had your chance to punish them on Tuesday. So where you would put SMU on Tuesday,
they should have. You're right.
Ranked them 13th, and what you're saying there is, hey, you're not in this right now. You are out. However, you win, you're in. We'll put you much higher in the rankings. We're cool with that. But if you're out, you lose this game, you're out. And this is a really slippery slope with these rankings, because if Clemson wins, you're now talking 2 ACC teams in this playoff bracket, which is a mockery. That is one of the worst conferences in the country.
Any chance a Big 12 could get 2 in?
I don't see it.
No.
Given the current rankings. I mean, this is why they were smart where they put Arizona State. They did this right. If Arizona State loses, you flip-flop that ranking, they're done. And you can flip-flop the ranking by saying, listen, they were only going to get one team in. You both had a couple of losses.
Absolutely.
The committee screwed themselves where they ranked SMU.
Man, oh man. That's an interesting take. They should have put SMU at 13. I'll agree with you on that. We don't agree often, but when we do, it works out. So we are going to have to get this off of here. Get a little bit spicy. We got to pay those bills. So hold on the other side. We got some more to talk about. We do have to talk about National Signing Day. It happened. It's big news. So that's what's next coming up.
Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we all know you're the best.
What?
You can always do better. Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
All right. Before we get to it, we got a comment in the locker room, which I thought was pretty reasonable to show. Here we go. From the Michigan Rider himself, Mike Germany says, you can't beat a terrible Michigan team now. How would you beat a Michigan team that's good enough to make it to the Big Ten championship game? Boom,
Mike
drop.
should know better than anybody what your record is, what your roster is, what anything is happening in that game. Take it and throw it out. It's meaningless. It is two teams. Everything goes into it. It's the game for a reason. It's not about talent. If it was based on talent, Ohio State would have won by 49 last week. It's not. So it's not about who is a good team or a Michigan team that can play for the national championship. It's not about that. That game is so unique in its own right. And that's where Ryan Day keeps stubbing his toe. Ryan Day is always going to have the talent pretty much year in and year out to compete with Michigan. I'd say the exception being 2023, that Michigan team was just better. But it's not about that.
And it wasn't that much better, to be honest with you.
It was
With the
significantly
N4,
better at the quarterback position, which is one of the most important positions to be better at.
Sure.
So,
yeah, but they kept it close.
Surprisingly.
And it was a rivalry. So Michigan might not have played its best game against Ohio State last year either.
They may not. Well, clearly they did. It was a close game, and that was the best team in the country. So, it's so tough to compare that game year to year. It's really unique in its own right. But I think we got to finish up a little bit more with the playoff before we jump into transfer.
Oh, you got some more?
Throw that back
Go
up.
for it.
Yeah,
Go
I do.
for it. You want the playoff bracket back up?
Yeah, I think we got to throw it back up for people watching here, and we can kind of talk through it a little bit more. But this is where I think as Ohio State fans, we kind of have to get our head wrapped around a little bit. What does Ryan Day keeping his job look like now that we laid this out? And we're just going to work off the philosophy. Bracket pretty much stays as is because it helps with the storyline. So right now, Ohio State, right? 2-1 this year against top 5 opponents. Pretty good mark, all things considered. Let's say they go out, they handle Tennessee. That would be 3 wins this year against the top 10 teams. If you see that 8-9 matchup, their next game would be against Oregon, who we are presuming to be the Big Ten, not just regular season, but overall conference championship. Let's say they beat Oregon. If you look at the way the bracket's shaping up, that 4-5 matchup, Boise State, Penn State, let's give it to Penn State here in this example. You now have another top 10 team in Penn State. So if Ryan Day wins the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, not only is he beating 3 more top 10 teams, which would put him at 5-1 on the year against top 10 opponents, pretty phenomenal. He will have also beaten the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. How does he not keep his job after doing that?
He does. He absolutely does.
I agree.
That's the formula for sure. Even if he loses in the championship game.
Even so, because you will be 5-2 on the year against top 10 opponents, and you will have in the playoffs beaten both of your Big Ten teams. Now, the comment you made to me earlier, and we didn't get a chance to elaborate on this, what I just said basically shows one half of the bracket being the Big Ten bracket and the bottom half of the bracket being the SEC bracket by and large. So you've got 3 teams in the bottom half in the SEC, and you got 3 teams in the top half in the Big Ten. Are they setting this up to basically say we just want the best of the Big Ten versus the best of the SEC?
And it's almost like, you wish you didn't have Indiana on that bottom half so that there was a chance. Like there's a chance for Tennessee to get through all that, isn't there? And it could be SEC on SEC.
I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched a ton of Tennessee. I'll be honest, the most of Tennessee I watched this year was against Arkansas where they lost and they looked pretty pedestrian, but that's not really a fair comp. So,
sure.
Until it's official on Sunday, I'm not really going to dive into a lot and say I've seen a lot of Tennessee football. I've seen a lot more Georgia and Alabama football. I can tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
I can agree with you on that.
In Georgia's an enigma. They are a team that can look like absolute garbage in a half, and then they just wake up in the third quarter like, okay, let's start playing football, and they can rock it. Alabama, just a lot of turnovers. Again, just can they get Milroe out? If Milroe stays in the pocket, they're in big trouble. Texas, I think, has a really good football team, and I'm basing that on the recruiting and the talent they've brought in, and I think they have a great quarterback in Ewers. You just haven't seen them battle tested that much this year. So we say all this to say I think you get past Oregon, just like Michigan. owns Ryan Day right now. Well, Ryan Day sure as hell owns James Franklin. So that semifinal matchup does not worry me.
Josh Gurley, Day better buckle up for Tennessee and not look too far down the bracket. He can't stand Josh Heupel, but he's a damn good coach. You know what? Heupel's speaking for himself, man. He turned Tennessee around and it didn't seem like anyone was ever going to do it. So
they were in the dumpster for 20 years, buddy. You know, you go back T. Martin to Peyton Manning. Once that fell off, they were a non-existent football program for 20 years, and he has done a great job reviving them. Absolutely.
Yeah, Bobby from King of the Hill.
This is all hypothetical. We know you can't look ahead at all, but you have to when you start talking, and we're going to get into this a little bit more towards the end with recruiting and coaching, you have to start asking yourself, okay, as a Buckeye fan, where is that line that says, I feel good again? And don't say beat Michigan because that's a year from now. We'll talk about that next Thanksgiving. But you have to look at this playoff and say, when do you feel good again about Ryan Day and the direction of this program?
When they're winning a playoff game.
Plural.
I start feeling good if they're winning one. Start feeling good.
Honestly, I'll tell you right now, I don't feel good.
You don't feel good good when they're beating Tennessee. If they're beating
Tennessee, I need to see you beat Oregon and really just crush another championship caliber run they have, beat the best team in the conference, and then I'll kind of let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, because Lanning is building a dynamite program up there. Just absolutely dynamite. And he's one that you got to be scared of for the future. And he's taken first place on first place on first place in everything. First place in the league, first year in. First place in recruiting in the Big Ten. Taking people right out of Ohio. I mean, he's bitch slapping Day right now.
It's pretty early, dude. I mean...
Yeah, but if you don't calm this storm before it gets too big, it's going to get out of control.
I mean... Like Michigan?
Yeah, like Michigan. I mean, Day's already 0-2 against Oregon.
Yeah, that's true. But
so
Lanning wasn't
a coach. Want that trend to continue either.
Lanning wasn't a coach then at that time, though, right?
No, he wasn't. Yeah. But, those 0-3s against Michigan before, it was Harbaugh. I mean, he was suspended for one of them.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, if we really want to start digging into this, right? Like Harbaugh was 0-6 before he won his first one. Like narratives can change. Things can change. Let's focus in. I think as Buckeyes, you got to focus in on this fact right now that Michigan will take care of itself next year. I have no idea how that's going to play out. What you got right now is you got to win at least the next 3 games for us to start feeling good about this team again. And, losing a recruit to Oregon here and there, guess what? Happens every cycle to just about every team. I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over it. You still have a 5-star quarterback who came in as well. Everyone's forgetting about Sanchez because they're talking about Ofer. You have a 5-star.
And Sanchez is actually better.
In a lot of ways, actually has more measurables. They like Ofer because he's kind of got that 2-way flair to him. But I'll take Sanchez any day of the week. I'm not really concerned.
Yeah, and Josh, again, from the locker room says, that's a good OSU comparable, and Tennessee gives the team and Heupel every possible resource to succeed. The expectations are unreal in Knoxville, too. I'm not sure that they're on the same level as they are at Ohio State because
no, that's a ridiculous
honestly.
Tennessee's. I don't have the records up. I can guarantee you 10 out of the last 20 years they've been 500 or worse. They are not the same, not even comparable. We've had one below 500 season, and I'm just going off the top of my head, 25, 30 years, and it went nuclear in Ohio State. So don't give me this Knoxville and the hype and the pressure is comparable to Ohio State. Not even remotely close.
Yeah, the only thing that's close is probably like how the fans react to a loss.
Bama, I will definitely say that pressure has got to be very intense down there. It's probably maybe the most intense Because I always look at Alabama and I say, you don't have that safety valve of a pro football program or a pro sports program. In Alabama, the entire sports world is Alabama sports. There are no pro sports that they give a damn about down there. So the entire sports universe revolves around your program. At least with Ohio State, you have the Browns, you have the Bengals, you have other sports. There's a lot of things to focus in on. So it's really probably just Alabama is probably the hottest of the hot.
The Ohio State posers, biggest posers in the history of football. You know, Ohio State's done really well at beating up the Big Ten and then getting on the national stage. And they've had a couple of embarrassing losses on the national stage. But they've also gone on when they have the right team and they won it. So they have their times. It's just hard to win a title, man. And especially when you're a Big Ten team going on the road constantly for bowl games. And usually playing someone in their hometown, home state. I mean, I know that's no excuse, but yeah,
it's no
Ohio
excuse.
State's had their moments. And we got a lot of haters because it's a damn good team year in and year out, just not the best of the best.
Oh, Josh, I would tell it to Tennessee's fan base time and time again. You don't have sub 500 years year in and year out and tell me how the pressure is intense down there. I mean, we could start Googling the list of Tennessee coaches there that have survived sub 500.
Plant the flag. That's a new account, man.
I like it.
Go Blue, 5 in a row coming soon. Oh man, I gotta give it to Jack Sawyer for ripping out that flag, man. I get it. He's an Ohio boy. He's frustrated. I probably would have done the same damn thing, to be honest with you.
I mean, I get it too, but I mean, this is where maybe these 4 days have led to some self-reflection. Michigan, you're going to the Tony the Tiger Bowl. You're 7-5. Yes, you won the game. Congratulations. You completely stubbed your toe coming off a national championship run. We at Ohio State have everything out in front of us. Now, could we go lose by 27 to Tennessee? Yeah, we could. You'd also win the whole damn thing. So I'd rather be sitting here today in a position to say, okay, everything we want is still in front of us than saying, who's our starting quarterback in the Tony the Tiger Bowl? Or I'm sorry, Duke's Mayo Bowl. Maybe I'm selling you all a little short.
Yeah, it's got to be the Motor City Bowl. Put them in Detroit, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, how nice would that be? It's like play a MAC team.
That's true. You can take the charter bus down there. You know, it would be nice. Yeah, you're right.
Everyone can drive themselves to the game.
Yeah, really good. Really convenient. Detroit's on the up and up, dude. Beautiful city. It's really improved over the last 20 years. So I like it.
Michigan are national champs right now. FYI.
Yeah, nobody cares. They're not in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's last year, man.
Hey, buddy, I'll probably have to have you shut down the Michigan comments there. They're kind of
hey, man, we have to take it. We have to take it now. I mean,
you know, I think again too, if we're sitting here, let's just say Michigan was the 5th seed, right? You'd really have to take it because not only did they beat you, but they're sitting right where they want to be to defend their national title. You would absolutely have to shut up. When you go 7-5 and your season's over now, no, don't have to take it.
I'll give them until the playoff seedings are announced and then let them have their heyday, man.
Max Crosby chiming in?
Yeah. How about Max Crosby?
He's not talking about the Vegas Raider, is he? I mean,
I don't know. You're going to have to explain, Gurley.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Although Max Crosby is a hell of a football player.
All right, let's dig in. Oh, here we go. Here we go. You just angered the Wolverines, man.
Yeah, that is what it is, dude.
Jordan Marble. Well, we'll see you in the playoffs next year, Jordan.
That's true. I mean, I think we all agree.
You know what that's going to lead me into? We're getting all the blue comments, so we got to talk about it. We got to talk about this big recruiting class, man. The number 1 quarterback in the nation goes to Michigan. The number 2 quarterback goes to Ohio State. You can't write a better script than that. Does Bryce Underwood start next year, day one?
I wouldn't think so. And I think Nebraska showed you why that shouldn't be the case. We talked about this in the offseason where I know you and
Max
Andrew,
Crosby. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Max Crosby being a big Ohio State fan. So
the NFL
he
player,
needs to chime in.
I'm all over the map on this one. So but to answer your question, I think Nebraska started Dylan Raiola, and we understood why, because they didn't have anybody there. I told you on the offseason, that is a really tough thing to do, to ask a true freshman to play a Big Ten schedule. And we saw that come to fruition with Nebraska. This is not a knock against Michigan or Underwood whatsoever, but asking that kid to start and do a Big Ten schedule, really difficult. So it's again, this kid could be elite as elite, and he can still sit out as a freshman. It's not a knock against you. I'd be shocked if he got in more than 4 or 5 games.
What are they going to pull, a portal guy or what? Because there's nothing on the roster.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're already hearing whispers about like Miller Moss. Miller Moss has 1 season left of eligibility. Bridge quarterback. Exactly what Ohio State did this year. They couldn't start Nolan. They couldn't start saying they needed a bridge quarterback for 1 year, and they went out and got the super senior. I could absolutely see Michigan paying for a 1-year transfer quarterback. And he's talking about Raiola and Underwood may be different animals. You'd have to elaborate on that. Raiola is one of the best quarterback recruits coming out in the country. So it is a very fair comparison to put the two. We want to start breaking down style and performance. I'm not into that. Just the philosophy of starting a freshman in a Power 4 conference, especially the Big Ten or the SEC. Extremely tall order for anybody.
I want to dive into this because Jordan Marbles, respect for the rivalry, man. Respect for us. I appreciate that, man. And I have respect for the rivalry.
Absolutely.
You know,
we're talking like
the rivalry.
So bitter and pissed off that we lost on Saturday. We have to talk about something else. Yeah.
Underwood's more mobile, but I agree with it. Yeah, it's hard for any.
It's not about dual threat or pocket
like this.
It's not about that. It's a true freshman starting in the Big Ten. I don't care who you are. That's a really tough thing to ask.
But we talked about this before. What we like about this, what we like about having the number 2 quarterback in the nation coming to the Buckeyes is because he's an Ohio boy. He gets it. He already knows the rivalry. When's the last time Ohio State had an Ohio-born quarterback? We talked about this.
We did. We had to go look it up. It was technically Cardale because you and I forgot he actually started the first game of the 2015 season. We went back and forth on that. But you'd have to go all the way back, really, to Braxton Miller. And Steve, what was Braxton Miller's record in the game?
Well, first of all, go back to Cardale. What did he do?
He was awesome. But I just want to hear it. Tell me Braxton Miller's record in the game. I just need to hear it.
Yeah, Braxton Miller, Mr. 4-0. 5-0, actually.
And
if you count the year he was injured, they still won.
Yeah, I needed that,
and
man.
He came back as the receiver.
It is, and
Number 5-0.
That's not to say
an Ohio boy, and then Cordell Jones wins a national title, comes in against Michigan, finishes the game off, takes them to the promised land.
Yeah,
and that's what one thing I want to give Day credit for with this signing class. He pulled in 8 Buckeyes, born and bred. And I think that's where you turn the tides on this rivalry. You need more guys like Jack Sawyer that give a fuck if a flag is planted in the middle of the field. You got to rip that shit down. Like, you got to have some respect for yourself. And yeah, I agree. You know, it makes it look bad that everyone got pepper sprayed, but you don't just sit around and let your rivals plant the flag. You know, if it wasn't a rival, you let Oklahoma do that all day. No one cared. When Oklahoma did it, that Oklahoma flag doesn't mean shit in Columbus, but you put that big M up there, that's a different story, man.
It is. But again, I think actually great time with Josh. I think Josh said it last on Sunday. You don't want to plant the flag. Don't lose the game. And
I agree with that.
Yeah, maybe it was you. I'm giving credit to Josh for something you said. Sorry.
No, I mean I think that's been spread everywhere.
It is.
And Josh says this, and I agree with Josh. I don't think Michigan gets worse. I don't think so at all. This battle is getting heated up. It's heating up even more. And it's Ohio State, it's Oregon, and it's Michigan running the Big Ten right now.
Yeah.
Michigan has 4 projected first rounders. Also, are you guys going to take the abuse? Savor it. Ohio State will win again.
Yeah, and
of course.
Ohio State's going to go on a run at some point, and Michigan will go on a run at some point. I mean, Ohio State won 14 of the last 17. Now Michigan's won 4 straight. I mean, it's cyclical. It's all right. And this is not saying that Michigan is going to have bad football teams in the future. No. They could have really good football teams. Go look at the last 20 years, the rankings at the time of the game. By and large, the majority of those games both had Ohio State and Michigan not only ranked, but ranked incredibly high. So that's it has nothing to do with good teams versus bad teams.
Yeah, and Jordan says, I think OSU would have planted the flag too. And, they probably would have.
I really hope they don't. I really hope they don't.
Now it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing.
No, because
this rivalry, pulling the banner down back in the day and taking it in. Ohio State did that. I mean, the fights with David Boston and Woodson. I mean, that's the iconic part of this rivalry. It's heated, and things like this are going to happen.
It's different today. It's different today because of social media. I think you could get away with that crap in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it today. And honestly, I would be really upset if Ohio State goes up to Ann Arbor, wins, and they try to pull that crap. I'm going to stand by it. I do not believe in planting your flag on someone else's field. You planted the metaphorical flag by winning the game. Celebrate on the field, have fun, talk to your fans. I don't care. Dance around in the other team's end zone. I'm cool with that. There's just a line that crosses it, and I think that's it.
Well, I'm with you a little bit. I hope Ohio State doesn't do it. But if they do, I'm not going to give a shit. I'm definitely going to repost it when I get that picture.
No, I hope I have the maturity to come on the show the following day and say what I'm saying right now. I say I hope.
No.
I strive to be an adult, and I'm not always an adult, but I'm going to strive for that.
I think Asian Posh agrees with you. No flag planting.
On Sawyer's
not on Sawyer's watch.
Yeah, she's right.
And she says no flag planting. Sawyer's not putting up with that. He's an Ohio boy. He's not going to stand for seeing that maize and blue junk in the center of the field. Right on Block O. I mean, it's just not happening.
Yeah, I get it. And that's where I don't know if the answer to all of this is what you were alluding to, that bringing in more Ohio State recruits or state of Ohio recruits is going to change this a little bit.
You have to have the right ones still.
I mean,
I think it helps. I do think it helps. I mean, when it's born in you, when it's bred in you, when it's part of you, it just means more.
I mean, it does. It's literally why you and I are doing this show right now. You and I are both Ohio born and raised. We've been raised to hate Michigan our entire lives. It's taken my wife and all of our friends up here in the greater Seattle area a decade to fully understand this hatred. I mean, they couldn't comprehend it up here. And I can say that in most places in the country, they're like, so-and-so is our rival. And I'm like, well, then why is half their fan base sitting here watching the game with you? Because they're all of our friends. Guess what?
Yeah.
That ain't happening by and large for Ohio State and Michigan. Maybe get a random person here and there.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's just not.
And Josh Gurley says it's good for the rivalry. I get that. I like it. I agree. It feels more intense than ever. Maybe because it's fresh. It was a devastating loss too. And the ADs, this is the part that Josh knows. The ADs will have to navigate this next year. And that That's actual. That's true. You don't want to see pepper spray on the field, man. That's
what?
A bad look. When it got to that level,
Sunday, your take on that was fantastic with the with the police officers and individuals being put in that situations, and we all watched it. It wasn't stopping anytime soon. It wasn't like
it was going to get worse
there. And 8 seconds later, there was pepper spray. That's a bad look. It was going on. I don't have the exact number, but it felt like 10, 12 minutes. It was not quieting down.
It would have got worse.
Yeah. It would have. They did everything in their power to dissipate it. It wasn't working. That's just a crappy headline on ESPN because they need clickbait. That is truly not understanding the situation. We don't want it. And that's where, again, you saw it in 2 other games on Saturday, and it led to fights too. You think North Carolina and North Carolina State have some bitter rivalry? Hell no. North Carolina and Duke's the rivalry, and it's not even the same sport where the rivalry takes place. And they just didn't like it because nobody likes getting their flag planted on their field.
Let's get into a little bit of college football dogs. These guys brought it on for us. These guys are the reason we're here. College football dogs, baby. Go check them out. We got articles coming. Got a great Buckeye writer, great Michigan writer coming from the college football dogs. So go check it out when you get the chance. And we'll be right back talking a little bit more signing day. Boom.
On the College Football Dogs website, you'll find a main page that features some of our biggest and newest stories. Our conference pages for content related to your favorite team's conference. Our team store, where we have products that are available all year long, as well as gear available for a limited time only. Our podcast page, where you can see when one of the 12-plus College Football Dogs podcasts is streaming live on social media. Our subscription page, where you can join our Discord. If you're interested in becoming a contributor at College Football Dogs, email us at info@collegefootballdogs.com. If you enjoy any College Football Dogs content, we really do appreciate any donations you can make by visiting the donate page on our website or scanning the QR code here.
College Football Dogs, for the fans.
Here we are. You know what? You got to dig into that signing class a little bit more. Ohio State gets a top 5. Oregon also up there. And Michigan also up there in the Big Ten. So let's dig into Ohio State's. You got everything that you would suspect, right? You got wide receivers all over the place. You got running backs. You got all the skill position you need. So what's missing? The offensive line. And what we really need is those big uglies on the offensive and defensive lines. The number one, you got one offensive tackle. He's in the top 25. Carter Lowe, he's from Ohio, so easy pick up there. You know who has more in the top 25 of offensive tackles? Bama, they have 3. You know who else has more? Oregon, they got 2 in the top 25. Oklahoma also with 2 in the top 25. So you have 3 other teams that have more than you in the top 25. Ohio State's got to keep up there. Something's got to change. That offensive line recruiting is huge for Ohio State. Huge. We need it. We got to have it. Interior offensive line. Got 2 interior offensive linemen. They are ranked 32 and 33 in the nation. You know who else has 2 higher ranked interior offensive line? Rutgers has 2. Rutgers. Missouri. The one that we didn't think we should even have to play in a bowl game because it's not any fun. And then the guys that you're going to compete against. The Georgias, the Oregons of the world. Even Texas A&M. And actually at defensive line, they recruited pretty well. It's kind of a nice haul. And led by Citinelli. He's an edge rusher who also tweeted out that he's the first Tongan to suit up as a Buckeye. And he's going to be a good one, man. So I just want to get your take on, what do you think's going on here? Do you think they want to recruit more out of the portal, have a developed guy? Because I know at offensive and defensive line, you need some of those big guys that you know are going to be great. You know they've developed. You know they've matured to the level you need them to be at. Is that something that you think is on the radar for Ohio State? Or is it just out of necessity?
There is a couple different ways you can look at this. If you go back the last few years with the true origin of the transfer portal that we know it today, you have seen over the last few years, and it's really tough to kind of dig in and find these numbers, but you have seen a handful of players along the offensive line coming via the transfer portal. And it seems to be the place where Ryan Day is going to pick up his offensive line talent. What you've seen paired with that over the last few years, and we really saw it show its true colors this year, is you've seen very weak recruiting classes for the offensive line. You just outlined it. 3 offensive linemen when you really need them. And honestly, one of them's a real legit one. The other one are kind of going to be your guard center combos, right? I know they wanted to look at McFadden at tackle, but he's really listed as an interior lineman. So
and Jake Cook out of Westerville, Ohio, another Ohio guy. So they're getting the Ohio guys. Wisconsin.
He's a 3-star.
Wisconsin also had 2 offensive interior linemen ranked higher as well. One of them from Ohio as well.
Well, listen, Wisconsin and Iowa, these are places where if you're an offensive lineman, it's a smart move to go to those places. You're probably going to get picked up somewhere. But that's where I think, to your point, you got to start asking yourself the question, is this a tactic from Ryan Day and the offensive line coach where they say we really don't feel like we want to start throwing scholarships at these kind of players? We want to go out and get the more established group of 5 linemen that's available? Or is this swings and misses on the recruiting trail?
It's probably a little bit of both. Like, I think you want to save that a spot for maybe 1 or 2 at most portal guys. And you got to think long term. You don't want to upset the apple cart in the room too, because if you're just bringing in portal player after portal player, you're going to get that in return, portal player after portal player, because it's going to be a portal player team where people transfer in, people transfer out, and that's normal. What Ohio State hasn't seen is a lot of attrition going out. It's second and third teamers. You're not seeing the big-time guys going out, and you wouldn't expect to see that at a place like Ohio State. Like, if you're going to start at Ohio State, you're going to the NFL. That's almost guaranteed.
Agreed. You're not seeing that at any major program where big-time starters are. And you can talk about Caleb Downs. That was an extenuating circumstance. The greatest coach of all time retired, right? That's an incredibly rare outlier. Short of that, you're not seeing that kind of elite talent going in the transfer portal. And you can also look at Quinshawn. I really think Quinshawn came to Ohio State to save some tread on his tires. Because if he was back at Ole Miss, he was probably carrying the ball 35, 40 times a game. Probably somebody got in his ear and said, that's not really smart. You have enough tape to be good.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. And maybe that's where they're looking at it. To me, we think about you want to sign those 4-star offensive tackles. You want to cultivate them. You want to grow with them. Maybe Ryan Day's saying this is not the best path to take because there's a lot of swings and misses with these kids. We don't know if they're going to gain 20 more pounds, grow a couple more inches. We don't know that. Let's go pluck the guy from San Diego State or Marshall who's already put the tape together and he's a plug and play for 1 year. Now, I think when you start talking about culture, though, and you're talking about getting Ohio boys in the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry and understanding that, mercenaries don't understand that.
Yeah. And they got to understand it quick. They're going to have to understand it quick. If you're coming to Ohio State, you're going to have to understand it. And that's the world we live in. The transfer portal is going to start taking over. And it's going to take over a little bit more significantly every year. And like Gurley says, he's like transfer portal sourcing like Texas, baby. The Longhorns get what they need.
And so does Ohio State. So does Ohio State. I mean,
it's just if that's your focus, you got to start on it early. That's my concern. Like, don't wait till the last minute and just offer someone. Like, get the best. If you're going to do it, go get them.
And they did. Look, McLaughlin was playing at an All-American level this year before he ruptured his Achilles. So
Absolutely.
you did. You saw that center being a problem, and you went out and got the best one. They did it again. The kid that played at San Diego State, that the name's lost from me, but they went out and got some linemen. They've gotten players in the past from it. They can do it, but I think I think this is actually a twofold problem. I don't think it's a straight Ryan Day philosophy that this is how we're going to manufacture our O-line. I think it's also a combination of some misses on the recruiting trail.
I absolutely think it is. I mean, they only went after 16 scholarship guys last year.
Yeah.
Was it Micah Parrish who transferred from San Diego State to Ohio State?
I forget who it was. I don't know
I
why
think
that
that's who it was. Offensive
why
guard.
that one is sticking out to me. And again, it's kind of tough to see when you start searching this stuff to really get a comprehensive list or really breaking it down. But
Georgia attrition is real, but they're so loaded, it's hard to tell. Maybe an environment thing. Some dudes aren't into drag racing. Yeah, Georgia. If you're not a racer, you get the hell out. They're replacing the hedges with drag strips.
Listen, man, the last 2 years, Georgia has pumped a ton of talent into the NFL draft, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And even
that's hard to overcome.
Even last year, people are forgetting Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. Those were studs in college. And guess what? They're studs in the NFL right now. Brock Bowers put up 10 catches, 100-some yards against the Chiefs. Ladd McConkey's been one of the best wide receivers for Herbert at the Chargers. So Georgia's lost a ton of talent, and they have a lot of talent there, but it's just young talent. So I don't put that on Georgia's program whatsoever.
But if Ohio State, if Ryan Day doesn't survive this, it boils down to the offensive line the last couple of years. And thinking about that, we got to dispel some rumors.
We do, man. But I gotta be straight, dude. I know we're throwing a lot of bouquets for Jim Knowles. The last 2 years, your defense had to stop Michigan to get the ball back to your offense with timeouts and a manageable field. Did he do that?
No.
So why is he getting a
that
pass?
defense was forced into bad situations all game.
Granted, but and I don't have off the top of my head right where that ball was. I want to say it was right around midfield.
Yeah,
on the game on Saturday.
And it was 3rd and 7.
It was 3rd and 7. And what do? You let a guy break off a 30-yard run, and then they get to milk the clock, burn your timeouts. Last year, Michigan had
that was just a good play by Mole. Give it to him when you got it.
Yeah, what was there? 8 minutes left. 8 minutes left last year in Ann Arbor, and they ran it down. And I think it was like a minute.
That's where you become a
like
tough
a minute
team.
45 left. But
that's where you become a tough team when you can run the ball down the throat at the end of the game.
Exactly,
you need it the most.
But Knowles is getting a pass on that. And also, you want to talk about a tough team? I mean, Ryan Day did that against Penn State, right? Kept the ball for a final 6 minutes, never gave it back, even with their 3 full timeouts. So I get a little bit frustrated when we're talking about the offensive line play when we keep giving a pass to Knowles when his defense needs to get the ball back for his offense, and they're not doing it. And they played it.
I mean, no, they played a great game. I can't fault the defense. I mean, because, yes, you can point out one play in every game where a defense should have done better. But all game, they were being forced into bad situations because of the offense, not coming away with points in the red zone, 2 field goals, 1 interception, another interception later wasn't in the red zone. But when you put the defense on its back like that every single time in and time out and don't extend some drives, it gets hard on the defense. And they get worn out. And for some reason, we don't substitute our D-line. So they're gassed.
Well,
we have the talent. We have all the talent in the world to substitute the defensive line.
Whose fault is that?
It's Johnson's, the D-line coach.
No, all things roll to the top. I mean, that's Knowles.
Yeah,
that's Knowles. That's not a coaching position's job. Because I tell you what, if I'm the D coordinator, my position coach is not rotating in and I want him to rotate, we'll see you later. You're no longer a position coach. So that's on Knowles. But that's where you're right. There's toughness and everything. We don't need to rehash it because we were transitioning to it. I'm a firm believer in you got to make the big plays. You can play great an entire game, but you drop a pass, you miss a block.
But you look at the Sawyer interception and then the offense just fumbles it away.
You have to overcome it.
It's got to be complementary football. You got to have it.
Yeah.
And you point out the one time that the defense didn't.
It was the most crucial time.
You know what? The most crucial time was those field goals. That Tate drop. Man, if Tate would have completed that pass, it was right to him.
I know, man.
We'd be talking different now.
We just got sucked back into the vortex, dude. I'm sorry.
Yes, you did. You put us in a hole.
We're did.
Back in that hole.
That's why we started the show.
We're still pissed off.
We're still not over this. Everyone's wondering why do we start this show? We're trying to,
There's some denial. We're not in the acceptance phase of grief yet. We're still in denial.
We're just in the anger.
I haven't accepted this loss.
Grief, and it's just anger. It's just straight anger.
Yeah, and I'm in that too.
I agree.
I'm mad.
Talk to me
about. It's not
about
going to change.
Talk to me about coaches. Now I want to fire them all again. Let's go.
I don't even want to talk about coaches anymore. I want to talk about how pissed off I am about the lack of adjustments.
Dude,
got me out of my element, man.
I know, dude. That is the thing I cannot tolerate is that. I don't know. But I think we have to move on, or else again our blood pressure is going to go through the roof. When we laid out all of this, though, we wanted to lay out all this for everybody to say there is a very realistic path for pretty much the majority of this coaching staff to come back again next year. And we laid that out pretty well in this show today about at least winning 3 games. You're beating Oregon, you're beating Penn State, a lot of logic and everything there. I think we do have to look at the reality.
Just are mad as fuck. Imagine how the seniors feel. I'm going
to be more mad because I actually had to pay to be an alumni there. Those seniors got it, got the scholarship. So I feel like my money.
They're getting paid to be there.
Yeah, that's true. They are getting paid. Good on them. But that's where I think, and you make some good points, right, with NIL and having to pay kids next year and the collectives and all this stuff. I don't agree with all of it. I think at the end of the day, I think if Ryan Day either loses against Tennessee or he loses against Oregon, I don't think there's anything else they could do except transition.
If he loses by 3 touchdowns to Tennessee,
he's
out no matter what.
His car's being towed before he gets to it. If
he's going to get a tarmac firing.
It would be, man. Well, I mean, it'd be a home game. That's why I'm saying his car would be towed. But, and that's where I don't. And that one might, like I said, that could go either way. We're not going to sit here and besmirch Tennessee. It's a damn good football team, and that's going to be a tough game. But unfortunately for him, winning that game just says, okay, what's next? You're not off the hot seat or anything like that. But I do think what helped some of that today. And I don't know if you got a chance to see it, was Urban Meyer releasing his statement.
Coming out and saying it's not happening.
It's not happening.
Loves Ohio State. Loved his time there. But he's not putting that 7-0 record against Michigan up for grabs, man.
He's also 60.
I'm out. I'm out with that 0 behind my name. So he's got that mug. If he has to spray paint a 1 on there, that would piss you off.
No, I think he's good, man, and I don't think he's
coming back either. And that's why they started reporting it. Your boy out of Cleveland started reporting it, and I never reposted it or anything because there just wasn't any validity to it. But what you do want to talk about is if there was secret talks. Let's say there was. He's going to put out a statement like that anyway. So it really doesn't say a whole lot.
No, it doesn't. And would either of us put anything past Urban Meyer saying that and then taking the job a week later? No, neither of us would be surprised.
Gurley's got the locker room words, man. if the Vols dog walk the Buckeyes, they get pepper sprayed by Urban Meyer, as is tradition.
He's got a lot of traditions for being a Michigan fan.
He's not a Michigan fan. He's a Texas fan.
Oh, sorry. He had a Michigan.
Don't put that on him.
No. You know
Besides
what, man?
that,
no, that's disrespectful, Josh. I apologize. Should never assume something horrible about a person like that. My bad, dude.
besides that, their quarterback is the only one in his class that has beaten Michigan.
Who's that?
In his Buckeye class. Texas quarterback.
Yeah, but he was on the sidelines, but yeah.
No, when he transferred to Texas, they beat Michigan this year.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I wasn't really connecting the dots there for you. That's true. He did. But I don't know. And that's where I don't think we really, and we talked about this, we really didn't want to talk much about coaching right now.
So Urban Meyer's out. Let's say
no,
it's going down.
I don't think Urban Meyer's out. He's not out until Bjork declares who the next coach is, whether that's Day or somebody else. I don't think he's out.
I think Vrabel's out. I mean, it doesn't sound
almost positive Vrabel is out. So
and then Dan Lanning, I don't think that's happening either. I mean, you make a call.
No, and again, I know that ruffled some feathers with everybody. That I wouldn't call it a pipe dream, but it would have to be something where I think Ohio State would have to beat Oregon in that second round matchup, which then brings up a big question. Does Day even lose his job then?
No,
but I don't know, man. It's still not secure. I think he beats Oregon and Penn State. I think he can breathe a lot easier. But I'm
telling you, inside of the wood, it's support. It's just this is going to blow over. Let's get through, and it's support all around.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's just not now. What I do find interesting is someone brought up the possibility of Eddie George coming into coaching. And I think if that's the case, if that's the long-term plan, if things go south, he needs a couple more years.
Oh,
needs 2 more years. And then that buyout's down to the approachable amount. All right. You see what Eddie George does, and he's the heir apparent.
I mean, buddy, he's coaching SBCU right now at Tennessee State. That's
why I said you give him those 2 years.
That is a monumental leap from the HBCU to.
It's the boosters, and they've already made up their mind. You're absolutely.
He's absolutely right.
You're absolutely correct about that. The boosters, that's money talks, man.
You know, and that's why I'm glad you were there this week and you really got that feel or a pulse, because I can't say I've ever been in other locker rooms or NFL locker rooms or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But just reading a lot of articles and listening to sports, you'll hear from a beat writer or something where they're not going to publicly say it, but it's like Dead Man Walking, where everybody in the building, you just walk in and it has that feel of a mausoleum. Everybody knows that coach is fired, whether it's next week or at the end of the season. You have that. So when you go in there and you're just feeling that vibe and that confidence that at least the building is still in support of them. I'm not going to talk about Bjork boosters or anything. They can have their own thing. But what's nice to hear is the building still supports them, because that's what you need right now.
Mm-hmm. And what I really think is offensive line, they're going to have to make some changes there. If there's no changes made there, that's when the shit starts rolling uphill, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert on an O-line. I can look at the recruiting. I can look at this stuff. But I could also make the argument you have Simmons and McLaughlin on that line.
I agree. And we were just all ready to, praise Justin Fry, man, and for what he's done shuffling around. And then this game just comes out of nowhere and bites us. And the offensive line played terrible. But they're playing against NFL first-rounders, and the coaches are running it right up the middle. Now I'm back on my rant again. Thanks a lot.
I know, but that's where I never watched that game, and I said to myself, this offensive line is garbage. I just didn't throughout the course of the game.
Rewatch it.
I will, man, and I'll tell you flat out. You know what I'm going to see? Bad play calling. Bad play calling. That's what I'm going to see. You did not put your players in a position to win that game. Yes, there were some things, but guess what? Linemen can only do what they can do, right?
Well,
I mean,
and they fed into it. Like, you keep that team that's down in the game for long enough, they're going to start believing that they're going to win the game. And that's exactly what happened. They made play after play after play at the end. Not so much on offense, but when they needed to, Mullings hit that 30-yard run. It was the plays that they needed. They just made it. And because they had confidence, because they let them hang around in the beginning.
Well,
I
did want to
take those shots deep.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you too, and we didn't bring this up. And I know in our pre-show meetings the last couple of times, we discussed that we didn't want to bring up the kicker, right? Because we didn't think that the kicker should have been a factor, and that's why ultimately it wasn't. But let me ask you this. When I go back, and I did rewatch the game, and I especially watched, obviously, the last drive that didn't go favorably, it was apparent that they lost that game before the 1st and 10. And it was also apparent to me that they said, we're not scoring a touchdown in 45 seconds. That's why they felt that way. But if you think about it, all you had to do was get it to the other team's 30. You had to gain, 40 yards? And you can do that in 45 seconds. So does that, when we talk about the kicking game being a non-factor, it looked like on that last drive to me, it was an absolute mental factor.
Yes, it was. I mean, he already shanked 2.
But that's what you're saying. If I'm Will Howard, you're not saying I have to get in the field goal range. You're saying
I got to score a touchdown.
I got to score a touchdown in 45 seconds. It ain't gonna happen. So I do think in watching that horrendous 4-play drive that the kicking game did play a factor.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it played a factor in the game for sure. You make both those field goals, you win the game.
No, you don't. I'm going to tell you right now, no, you don't. Because if you don't stop Michigan scores a touchdown on that last drive. They were 1st and goal on the 2. Or whatever, 4th and goal. But they would have tried something different. They could have did a lot of things different. So I don't, but I think where it really came into play was that last drive and knowing we don't have a field goal kicker. So what's the point in getting in range? So really.
And there's a difference, Josh, from Josh again in the locker room is bringing it, man. There's an internal campaign, I'm sure. Saw this with Mac Brown, right or wrong, doesn't matter. You can't lose to Michigan 4 times in a row at Ohio State. And that's absolutely correct. There's a difference here. Mac Brown saw his time come and go before him. He had all the recruits. He locked down Texas. He was on his way out. It was just the culture had changed. What we have here with Ryan Day is the administration decided to hire a guy with no coaching experience. You're going to have to expect that you go through some bumps and bruises with a guy who's never been a head coach. Like, you have to take that into consideration. Like, you hired him to develop into the coach that he needs to be. And he's still learning that.
Yeah, that argument would be true.
And I give him the playoffs this year to figure it out.
See, that's the major difference, Josh. And that's what we're trying to reiterate here. If we were still in the 4-team playoff this year, Ryan Day is done. He is done today. He is not the coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes because there is no future again. However, the uniqueness of this being the first 12-team playoff is everything's in front of you. Everything you want to accomplish is in front of you. And that's why your perspective on being in the Woody is so valuable because you can still win the national title. I'm not saying you're going to. I'm saying you still can. And so having that positivity and optimism in that building, especially with this roster and its talent, now all you need to do to put this all together is get your coaches' heads on straight.
Absolutely. And it's time. It's that time. It's time by Sunday. The next time you guys hear from us, I don't know if we'll have a show on Sunday, but the next time you hear from us, it's time to be positive. This is our last venting episode.
You're not waking me up at 6:30 again on Sunday, dude. No.
It's time to get real. It's time to focus on the playoffs. I mean, they said it. Hey, this is all in front of us still, and we got to go win the whole damn thing.
And I'll say this too. Last year, I'd be very nervous about all this. If Buckeye Nation wants a silver lining, Chip Kelly is one of the most brilliant offensive play callers there are. And the guy has coached at the NFL level, at the collegiate level. The guy's been around the block. He's handled adversity. He's coached at big-time programs. So I say you put your chips in on Chip Kelly and him designing 4 masterful offensive playoff games.
Chip off the old chip for Chip. You got it.
Say what you want, man. The guy's a seasoned veteran. He's coached a very long time, and he knows what the hell he's doing. So
And I honestly think that that's probably why they didn't take some shots. You had the old man back there that wants to be conservative, calling the plays.
Yeah, and now, and even in Oregon in the heyday, they still ran the ball a ton. People forget about that. He ran the ball a ton. He still threw the ball. Now it's all gone. And now I go to everybody and I say, listen, we have nothing to lose at this point. We could all be fired if this next game goes sideways. Let's have fun.
Time to let loose.
Let loose, man. Any play in the playbook you want, let's go. Balance, be damned. I don't care. Run the ball 90% of the time, pass the ball 90% of the time. I don't care. Just go have fun.
Shit, if I like the way the last game went, I let the players call the plays.
We'll see, man. I let Jeremiah Smith call him, dude. He can do whatever he wants.
Give me the ball every single time. Throw it up.
Okay.
I got you.
I like that plan.
I want to see 15 targets, bare minimum.
That is an insane amount of targets, man. I'd
15.
be happy with 8. I'd be happy with 8.
He needs 15 targets every game. He's a generational player, dude.
Oh,
whether it's a run, whether it's a jet sweep, I don't give a fuck what it is. We get to demand the ball.
I can
try. At least attempt it early and often too. Early and often.
I agree, but that's why I think we needed to have one more show like this for everybody. Just continually try to flesh out. It's never going to go away. We're not going to sit here and try to make it go away, but we needed to vent and fume a little bit more. But this is the first time in our fandom as Ohio State fans where we can come off a loss to Michigan and still have everything we want in front of us.
That's it, man.
That's it.
Time to end the show. Let's get out of here. We will be back. Not having a morning after show because there's no after on Sunday morning. There's no after for the Buckeyes. So peace out. I'll actually be at the Big Ten Championship game watching that from the press box. So I'll cover a little bit of that too. So y'all take care. Peace out. God bless everyone. Even you Wolverine fans that joined us on the show. We love the rivalry, man. Appreciate you all joining us. God bless.